Here's how I completely automate the listing, application, and showing process. I save so much time with this. Self-managing my real estate takes almost none of my time. Pretty much all automated. Rich Carey from Rich on Money. I'm a property manager, real estate investor, and realtor. And I love talking about this process. I've been managing my own rental properties for about 6 years now. I typically manage anywhere from 20 to 30, so this isn't like onesies and twosies. We're going to talk about listings, applications, and self-showings. The entire process, automated. First, a bit on communications. I don't talk to my tenants on the phone. I text them. This saves tons of time. Second, I use scripts instead of texting most of the time. So they're pre-prepared and they streamline the listing and application process. And I'll share those with you. Diving into the listing process. I list in 2 places. I use Zillow Rentals. I pay for the premium package. It's like $30 or something. And then I list on Facebook Marketplace and I don't pay for that. The way that these are both set up, you don't need to talk to people on the phone. Things can go to your voicemail and you can just text them. Now, the way I interact with everybody, I like to use a separate phone number for my listings and applications. And I do that by getting a free Google Voice number, which has a local prefix to it. And you're able to sign in online and text and even do phone calls from your phone or the computer. So let's talk about the way I do scripts. So somebody on Zillow or Facebook Marketplace ends up sending you a message. They're interested in the property. On either platform, you're able to text an answer instead of calling or emailing. And I have 2 sets of scripts that basically get me to the point where someone can make an application. Instead of calling everybody or talking back and forth or texting back and forth forever, these 2 scripts streamline the process for me and make it simple. The first script that I send to everybody simply says, yes, it's still available, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. Here's my criteria for renting the property. And then I lay it out quickly. You got to have 3 times the rent as income, at least a 600 credit score, good prior rental reference. And then I ask 2 questions actually. How much do you make in a month? And what's your approximate credit score? 90% of people just aren't going to answer you because they know they don't qualify. But you're going to get some that don't qualify, but still kind of try to go back and forth with you. Well, I don't make good enough credit, but I still want to apply. Politely let them know that they don't pass your criteria and move on to the next person. Now, if they try to argue back and forth, honestly, at that point, I just ignore it. When somebody answers and they said, hey, yes, I make $4,000 a month, and that's enough depending on 3 times the rent as income, and yeah, I make $650, that's my credit score. Once they've indicated that they might qualify, then you send the next prepared text, the next script, which says the following: great. Again, here's my criteria. 3 times the rent as income, good prior rental reference, 600 credit score. If you meet these criteria, I'd like you to fill out a free online application. Once I've looked at your income and prior rental reference, I'll allow you to view the property, and then we'll go forward from there. That text has a link to the online application that I use. I use a service called Tenant Cloud, tenantcloud.com. That kind of does all my property management stuff. But there are a lot of online property management software that you could use for this. By the way, if you want me to send you my exact scripts that I use, just send an email and I'll shoot that to you. I also have a script for verifying income and verifying rental reference. Now we're going to talk about the application. What do I think is important on an application? Because sometimes you can sort of customize what's in them, depending on the software that you use. I use Tenant Cloud. I care about the following. I want them to attach a pay stub or paycheck. I want them to attach an ID card, attach a lease if they're currently in a lease, checking account statements. I ask approximate credit score, and I ask if they smoke or not. Oh yeah, I ask who else is going to live in the property besides them. Basically, how many people. But really the main thing I need to do now, this is the main job of the online application before they see the property, and that is you're going to verify that they make enough income and verify that they have a good prior rental reference of some kind. I'm also fine if they owned a property before and have a decent credit score. So we verify income. They should have a pay stub there. Make sure it's attached, make sure it looks legitimate. But we need to do one more form of verification. You've got to contact the company that they work at somehow and have somebody tell you that they actually work there. A word of caution, usually people will list their supervisor or manager's personal email address and or personal cell phone number. You can't use this to verify. You need to let them know, I need a work email address, or I need to be able to call the office and get a hold of them through a business number. You just tell them that's your policy, because really too many people will just have, pretend supervisors that don't actually exist when they don't have jobs. Ideally, you'll be able to call the business with a number you find online, maybe get yourself to human resources or talk to the right person and just get a hold of the person through that method instead of calling their personal cell phone. Another great thing to do is send an email to them using another one of my scripts that asks about their current job and the income and whether they're doing a good job and all that stuff. But you only send this to a work email address. So you've verified income. Now you need to verify good prior rental reference. You're kind of doing the same thing, but doing it with a property manager or a landlord. Again, this can be tricky because sometimes people can pretend to be landlords, but if it's a property management company, then just make sure you contact them through a business number. It's also great to get a property manager business email address to email them at. You can use a script for that as well. A lot of property managers want you to email. Often you have to attach the sign application, which works out fine with online applications. You're able to save it as a PDF and send it to them. Here's the things that you want to ask them, either in text, either over the phone or by email. You want to ask, are they breaking a lease if they move into my property? Also, do they pay on time? How often are they late, and do they owe any money right now? And of course, would you rent to them again? And this brings us to something I'm very proud of, self-showings. Oh no, I don't waste my time driving out and meeting people at listings and have them show up late or not show up at all. I let them do self-showings. I know what you're thinking, but wait, do they break into the place after they've seen it, or do they leave it unlocked and does it get ransacked, or do they steal the key, or do they run off with the fridge? Oh, and of course, do you get squatters? I haven't had any of these things happen, and here's one of the reasons why. At the point they've done a self-showing, they've filled out a free online application and they've attached a bunch of important information about themselves, like their pay stub and some kind of ID card like a driver's license. And you vetted that they had the income and the prior rental reference. So they're probably decent people. I haven't had a problem at this point. I mean, if you let any Joe off the street go do his self-showing, sure, you'd have all these problems. Knock on wood, I just haven't had this problem yet. The great thing about a self-showing is you've got a bunch of information about them. You just tell them, go ahead and look at the property anytime you want. Just let me know when you're going to go, and on your way over, I'll give you the code to get into the property. For some reason, I've noticed with self-showings, they almost always go. Another thing I've noticed about self-showings is because of the process I'm using, about 90% of the time, the first person I allow to see the property asks to rent it and moves in. There are a number of options you can use for ways to handle the code for the door. I've used different kind of digital boxes where you can change the code remotely. But really what I found is, since I end up showing it once, maybe twice, I just use a standard lockbox with, 4-digit number. And then I change it for the next time I need it. It really hasn't been a big deal. What happens after the self-showing will be covered in my next video, which will cover the lease and the move-in process. What do you guys think of my process, and which part interests you the most and why? Leave me a comment. This is Rich on Money signing off.